You've probably felt it, that strange, quiet tension in your chest, the kind that shows up when the room is silent, when you're alone with your thoughts, and a voice inside whispers, "You were meant for more than this." It's not always loud. It doesn't scream, but it lingers. It shows up when you see someone else doing the thing you always wanted to do. And instead of feeling happy for them, you feel a sharp ache, a mix of admiration and mourning. You tell yourself you're just not ready, that the timing's not right, that there are responsibilities to handle first, things to learn, money to make, people to please. And slowly, without realizing it, you start living on the edges of your own life, watching it pass from the sidelines, postponing your real self for a future version of you that never quite arrives. You say, "I'll start next week. I just need to feel more confident." Once things calm down, but they never do, and the days keep passing, and the ache keeps growing, until one day you look around, and your life is full of half-lived stories, unopened doors, and versions of you that never got the chance to exist. You're not lazy. You're not a failure. You've just been hypnotized by the illusion of someday. And that illusion is costing you everything. So let's break it. Let's talk about the lies that keep you stuck, the fear you've mistaken for logic, and the version of you that's waiting, still waiting, for you to finally choose. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, most people walk through life carrying something they can't quite name. It's not depression, it's not anxiety. It's a low, dull pressure, like something inside them is unfinished, unresolved, unlived, and it shows up in subtle ways. You wake up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. You lose interest in things that used to matter. You laugh, but it doesn't feel honest. You smile, but something inside you isn't smiling back. You look at your life and say, "I should be grateful," and maybe you are. But behind that gratitude, there's a shadow, a thought you keep pushing down, a door you never open. It whispers, "You were supposed to be more than this. You were supposed to take that leap. You were supposed to become someone else." And yet here you are, doing everything you're supposed to do, fulfilling roles, ticking boxes, keeping it all together, while quietly wondering if you've betrayed yourself. No one talks about that betrayal because it's not dramatic, it's not public, it's quiet, polite, and gradual. It looks like saying yes when your soul screamed no. It looks like staying where it's safe instead of walking into the unknown. It looks like convincing yourself that your dreams were unrealistic, just to avoid the pain of trying and failing. But here's the thing, that weight, that exhaustion, that quiet grief you carry, it's not because you've done too much. It's because you haven't done what matters. You've been loyal to expectations, but disloyal to your calling. You've been chasing comfort and calling it wisdom. You've been surviving when you were meant to ignite. The what-ifs you try to forget are not memories. They're ghosts. And they don't fade with time. They wait, they haunt. And eventually, they take over. Because if you don't live the life that's calling you, you end up living the life that's handed to you. And no matter how stable or successful that life looks, it will always feel like something is missing, because something is. There's something dangerous about possibility. It sounds beautiful. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like hope. But if you don't act on it, it starts turning on you. The dreams you once used to inspire yourself become reminders of what you haven't done. The plans you made in secret, the things you swore you'd one day try, they start to feel like evidence. Evidence that you've been running in place. You look at people living the life you wanted, and it doesn't inspire you anymore. It stings. You say, they're lucky, or they had better timing. But deep down, you know the truth. It's not that they had more talent or more resources. It's that they moved. They acted before the fear settled in. They started while you were still waiting. And now every time you think about starting, it feels harder, heavier, because now you're not just facing the unknown. You're facing your own delay. You think, it's too late. You think, I missed the moment. You think, people already expect me to be someone else. And that's how the possibility of who you could have been becomes a cage for the person you are now. You're no longer dreaming forward. You're grieving backward. You're not building your life. You're managing your regrets. But here's something no one tells you. Regret is not just sadness. It's proof. Proof that something in you still cares, still remembers, still wants. Because if it didn't matter to you, you wouldn't feel the sting. You wouldn't carry the ache. You wouldn't be watching this video right now, trying to figure out what's still possible. And maybe that's the real message here. It's not too late. It's just been too quiet, too delayed, too covered in logic and responsibility and realism. But the fire's still there. And if you can feel regret, you can still feel life. You're not mourning what's lost. You're mourning what's been neglected. And that means you can still choose. You can still become. But only if you stop worshiping the timeline of what should have happened and start building the one that still can. It starts innocently. You say, I'll start when I feel ready, when I'm more confident, when I have more time, more money, more clarity, and suddenly you're 27 or 35 or 49, still waiting. The idea that there's a perfect moment is one of the most dangerous lies you'll ever believe, because it feels responsible, it feels mature, it feels like you're being smart. But what you're really doing is bargaining with time, as if time owes you something, as if it'll pause while you get your emotions in order. It won't. Time doesn't stop. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care that you're unsure, scared, or still healing. It moves, and it takes with it every opportunity you weren't brave enough to grab. The perfect moment you're waiting for? It doesn't exist. There's no point in your future where everything will suddenly make sense, where the fear will disappear and the green light will flash, telling you it's finally safe to begin. You keep waiting for clarity, but clarity comes after movement, never before. You keep waiting for signs, but most signs only show up after you've taken the first step. You keep saying, I'm not ready. But readiness isn't something you feel. It's something you build by showing up before you believe in yourself, by starting even while your voice shakes, by taking the first shaky step into the dark, and trusting that something real will meet you on the other side. But most people don't. Most people stay still. They build routines around their hesitation. They make an identity out of preparation. They create rituals of avoidance that look like planning. They stay where it's familiar, even if it's killing them, even if it's draining their soul, because familiar pain still feels safer than unknown freedom. And that's how a person dies. Not all at once, but slowly. One decision at a time, one excuse at a time, one not yet at a time. And the tragedy is, they don't even realize they were free the whole time, that the door was never locked, that the right time was always now. Look in the mirror long enough and something strange starts to happen. You don't recognize the person staring back at you, not because you've changed, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped choosing who you were becoming. You became what was expected. what was convenient, what was applauded, what was safe. And slowly, quietly, you lost track of the fire that once lived in you. You traded passion for stability, curiosity for predictability, wonder for control. And now you feel flat, like a faded photograph of someone you used to believe in. There are moments, brief ones, where something inside tries to break through. A movie scene that makes you cry for no reason. A random memory that hits like a wave. A song that reminds you of the version of yourself you left behind. You pause, you feel it, and then you bury it again. Because what would it mean to actually go back? To unlearn the life you've built? To admit that maybe, just maybe, this version of you isn't the real one? That kind of honesty is terrifying, because it means the job you fought so hard for might not matter. The degree you earned might not fulfill you. The relationship you stayed in out of comfort might be draining your spirit. It means looking at your life and realizing, I created all of this, and I still feel empty. That's a hard truth, but it's also the beginning of liberation, because the pain you feel, it's not failure, it's misalignment. It's your soul begging you to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop living a life that looks good from the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to the person you were before fear got involved, before shame, before expectations, before comparison. The person who once dreamed without permission, who didn't ask if it was practical or profitable or realistic. The version of you that still exists, buried under years of being what everyone else needed. They're still in there, and they're not mad at you. They're just waiting for you to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. What if it's not over? What if the door you keep mourning was never the only one? What if your life is not behind you, but buried under the noise you've mistaken for truth? You keep telling yourself it's too late, that you've missed your window, that there are people already ahead of you, people younger, smarter, more prepared. But none of that is real, because the time is not linear when it comes to purpose. Some people wake up at 20, others wake up at 60. The only tragedy is never waking up at all. And you're still breathing, which means you are still becoming. The dreams you thought had died, they're not dead. They're just dormant, waiting for a version of you who's finally brave enough to pursue them. And I get it. There's grief in realizing how long you've waited, how long you've delayed joy, how long you've allowed fear to dress up as maturity. But what if you forgave yourself for that? What if you let go of the years you lost and started reclaiming the years you still have? There is a version of your life that exists beyond survival, beyond maintenance, beyond just getting through. It's a life where you wake up with intention, not dread, where you chase things that set your soul on fire, where your calendar reflects your values, not just your obligations. That life isn't a fantasy, it's not a motivational poster, it's real, but it costs something. It costs your excuses, it costs your comfort zone, it costs your old story, the one where you're always almost ready, and most of all, it costs your loyalty to your past self. Because you can't become who you're meant to be if you keep trying to please the version of you that chose safety over aliveness. The life you want is already reaching for you, but it can't wait forever. And the longer you pretend it's not possible, the more you train yourself to settle. So stop asking if it's too late. Start asking what you can still do. Because if there's even one desire still pulsing in your chest, that's proof that your story isn't done yet, and that should terrify you. But more than that, it should excite you, because now finally, the life you were meant to live isn't some far-off fantasy. It's standing in front of you, holding its hand out, asking, "Are you ready now?" Every life-changing moment starts the same way. Not with a breakthrough, not with a miracle, but with a quiet decision, a line drawn in the sand that says, "I'm done living like this." But most people never reach that moment because they're afraid, not of failure, but of commitment. Because real commitment means killing something, killing off every backup plan, every comforting excuse, every version of yourself that's built on playing small. And that kind of death, it's terrifying. Because once you choose, you can't unchoose. You can't pretend you don't know anymore. The door opens, but behind it, there's no map, no guarantees, just risk and motion and the possibility of becoming someone new. And here's the brutal truth. You can live your entire life without ever walking through that door. You can stay on this side of the line, where things are familiar, where your story makes sense, even if it hurts, where the pain is predictable and the disappointment is manageable. That's what most people choose, and they justify it. They say, "Now's not the time." They say, "I'll try after the kids grow up," or "when I've saved more money," or "when I'm less tired." But if you peel back those words, what you'll find isn't logic, it's fear. And fear is a master of disguise. It doesn't want you to leap. It wants you to wait, to hesitate, to gather more information, to think, to plan, to stall, until your entire life becomes a cycle of preparation without pursuit. And one day, you'll be sitting at the end of your timeline, surrounded by comfort and haunted by every door you never opened. So here it is, your decision point. Right now, not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready, right here. Are you going to keep organizing your life around fear? Or are you going to burn the false stories, the ones that told you you're not ready, that you're not smart enough, talented enough, brave enough? Because deep down, you know what you're meant to do. You've always known. That's why the ache never goes away. That's why you can't ignore it. That's why you're still listening. So stop dragging your feet. Start. No more chapters that begin with "what if." No more sentences that end in "maybe someday." The person you could have been, they're still waiting, but they won't wait forever. Let's stop pretending. You know you weren't made for a life like this. A life that's always almost. A life where you show up for everyone else but disappear when it's time to show up for yourself. A life where your real self is just background noise. You weren't made to apologize for your desires. You weren't made to shrink, to delay, to second-guess yourself into numbness. You were made to burn, to create, to live fully, even if it terrifies you, even if it costs you everything you built while trying to avoid pain. So here's what you need to know. The what-ifs don't go away. They multiply. They echo in quiet rooms. They wait for you in moments of stillness. They chase you until you confront them. Or you become one, and that's the choice. You either act or you become a living museum of unlived dreams. That's how this works. No one's coming to push you. No one's going to rescue your potential. No one's going to knock on your door and say, "Now is the time. The conditions are perfect. Everything is safe." Because it never will be. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this is about stepping out anyway, saying yes while your voice shakes, building the plane while you're falling, and trusting that life rewards motion, not perfection. So what now? You can close this video, scroll to something safer, distract yourself like you always do. Go back to the routine that numbs you just enough to survive, or You can do the one thing you've avoided for years. You can finally begin. Not by moving across the world, not by quitting your job tomorrow, but by making a decision so loud, so honest, so real, that it disrupts the entire story you've been telling about yourself. You don't have to know where it ends. You just have to stop living like your time is infinite, because it's not. And if you don't take this seriously now, you will reach the end with a heart full of answers to questions you never had the courage to ask. So ask them, live them, burn for them. No more half-alive days. No more almost. No more what if. This is your life, and it's already happening. The only question left is, are you